Hello, hello. This is the Yarn Life Show live on Friday. We're live every Friday. Selena Baca here and Jess Mason. We are the founders and the hosts of the Yarn Life Show. Thank you all for joining us so much. Today's show subject is our expert advice, and we're going to bring to you some of the best products that we have. So this is a show all about the 10 best products for your yarn life. So these are 10 products that made a huge difference in our yarn life, and we're going to share them with you and talk a little bit about them, tell you why they're important, and then also tell you where you can pick some up too. Thank you again, everybody, for joining the Yarn Life Show, whether you're here live or you're watching the replay, for your daily dose of fiber. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for notifications on every single episode that we air, because we're going to be here every Friday, especially for this season, which is season 1. Also, please come on over and get tangled up. I'm tongue-tied. That was so funny. Get tangled up, right? Couldn't have happened at a more perfect time. In our fun, upbeat, educational Facebook group that's dedicated to the hanks, skeins, balls, cake that we love most, and to the people who make the most of all of that, because yarn is life. You're going to find links in the show notes after this, but you can just find us on Facebook, Yarn Life, in our little group. So today's episode is sponsored by you. Why is it sponsored by you? Because I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about our Yarn Life shop. You're going to check it out. There's going to be a link again in the show notes. So please click on over, because it's full of Yarn Life swag. So click on over there and pick up some Yarn Life swag. We've got Yarn Life tees. We've got Yarn Life totes, a Yarn Life mug that Jess just created. That is so cute. So cute. I can't wait for you guys to see that. And again, this episode is sponsored by you, because every single purchase you make there helps us to create more great episodes, more great content, bring more amazing guests to this show. So again, if you click on over, check it out, share it with your friends, grab some swag in the in our Teespring shop, just to share your love of yarn and yarn life, and to help this channel to produce more amazing things. So thank you, Yarn Life. Today's show, back to today's show today. Again, it's expert advice, 10 best products for your yarn life. So today's show is episode 5, season 1, episode 5. Jess and I, we're bringing our expert advice to the table, and we're going to share 10 of our best products that you should try in your yarn life. So we're going to share one at a time until we go through all of 10. And while you're watching here live or on the replay, we would love to hear your thoughts, feedback, questions about any of the items that we're sharing today. Now, as yarnpreneurs, because yarn is our business, we have a lot of opinions about which products that we like to use. We're very picky. So Jess is going to go first today. And we were just chatting before this episode went live. I actually picked the same exact thing. So Jess, you go first and we'll go from there.
Yes, I'm so excited to share this product. It has literally made the biggest impact on my crocheting. So I have, and I couldn't pick just one, so we have the whole handful of my Happy Crochet hooks. They come in such gorgeous designs. And the reason why I say they've made such an impact on my crocheting is I use boy metal hooks, and they're quite skinny without this extra polymer clay handle. They're quite thin and they're not very ergonomic. So it causes your hands to kind of have to hold your hook a little tighter. You got to squeeze a little more while you're crocheting. And that can lead to like hand cramps and just not good stuff. My first Happy Crochet hook, not this particular one, but I got in a size H because it's the size that I use most often. And I was like, okay, I'll try one, whatever. So I got the one hook and I was using it, and then I had to do a project in a different size. And I went back to using a regular hook without the handle. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So that was when I knew I had to kind of build out my collection. So I've slowly been picking through all the different sizes so that I have an entire range. I have all kinds of different designs. The artists there are amazing. They do some really cool stuff. They've got wooden hooks, all kinds of different designs. I don't have any floral ones because it's not my thing, but they do have a lot of, I think, Selena, you probably have some floral ones.
I do.
I like all the really cool designs. And I think it's not only a hand saver as far as, actually crocheting, but it's a cool way to kind of also share a bit of your personality and, the colors you like and stuff like that. So you can get these at happycrochethooks.com. And they are, again, like probably the product that has made the biggest difference in my crocheting. And this isn't even all of them. That's not even all of the ones that I have, but yes. And Amanda chimed in. She said, love Happy Crochet Hooks. Yeah, they're awesome. They've got a really great fan base because they are a really awesome product.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that we shared offline before we got on. And I said the same thing. I've got my Happy Crochet. My lighting is terrible. I'm sorry, guys. I got to up my lighting game. My very first thing that I wanted to share was Happy Crochet Hooks as well. And we're not even affiliated with Happy Crochet Hooks, so it's not even about that. Like, this is just something that we really, really love. I like Happy Crochet Hooks for all of the reasons Jess said. This fits my personality. I like that they're always using new colors and styles and textures, and the craftsmanship is really, really well. So I just trust that brand. I trust using Happy Crochet Hooks for all of those reasons. But what I love about Happy Crochet Hooks, because I've only been using polymer clay hooks for, it's probably been 2 years now. Before that, I was crocheting, like 30 years, like 25, 30 years. And I was using just the standard hook. I got one in my hair now because that's what they're good for now without the handle. But I was using that my entire life. And for me, there was nothing to compare it to. And so the minute I put a Happy Crochet Hook or a polymer clay hook, a big handle hook in my hand, and I started crocheting with it, and I'm not a doctor and don't quote me on this and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, but I wasn't gripping as hard because there was more to hold on to. So my grip was naturally loosened, which meant it was more comfortable for me. I could crochet longer. I wasn't waking up with claw hand. I could marathon crochet longer. And I started the same as Jess. I just got like an H hook or something that I thought, well, how many of these am I going to get? I can buy a hook for $2. Why would I spend 15, 20, 25 on something like this? But Jess is right. Like, I love the personality. I love that it's kind of like buying a new pair of shoes. Yeah. Or new yarn or new things that are pretty that make a difference in your life. I feel inspired when I use a hook that's pretty. I feel inspired to crochet more, to take more pictures, to post it on Instagram more. So that is my expert advice. My expert advice is that it's not only comfortable, it's not only beautiful, it's not only well made, whether or not you go with a Happy Crochet Hook style. If this is your life, if yarn is your life, whether you're a business owner or a hobbyist, if you're trying to get reach and engagement, if you're trying to reach people on social media, this does it for me. This makes me want to take more pictures. This makes me want to talk to people more. This makes me want to share more things on Instagram and Facebook. And that just in itself makes other people interested in who I am and what I'm doing. So that's why this is number one on my expert advice, was something that has made a huge difference in my yarn life specifically.
And how satisfying is it when your hook matches your project?
So satisfying.
It's the best.
It is. I felt so sassy when I said that too. So satisfied.
Amanda says, my problem now is what size to get when I order one. I'm always torn. Yeah, I have the same problem, Amanda. I use H's most often, so I actually have an entire separate collection of just H hooks, which might seem crazy to some people.
It doesn't. But it doesn't though, because I wound up doing the same thing, and I've been collecting for 2 years. And at first I was like, you get an H and an I and a J and then like you're good, right?
Yeah.
But every single time I picked up a new project, like I realized, okay, I really do need the smaller hooks, especially. I've really got to replace with these bigger handle hooks, because it, for me, is impossible to hold this little, like,
it's like crocheting with a toothpick.
Oh my gosh, it really is. So, I mean, for me, just like, for example, I just got this one with the little foxes on it. I love it. My foxy
Yes,
book.
I have one of those.
And this, I haven't even used it yet. It's a C, but I'm ready. You know, when I get my thread, if I ever have a thread project, me and the fox, we're going to take care of business.
Love it. All right.
So yeah, that's number 1 on our list. What's number 2 on your list, lady?
Number 2 on my list, and I did not order these in any kind of particular.
They're not ranked by.
Yeah, they're not
how
ranked.
Important they are. Okay.
So this might seem like a little tiny thing, and I hope that you can see this really well. I'm going to try and get it nice and close.
Is that a loaded baked potato?
It is a loaded baked potato.
Oh my gosh. With butter.
It is a stitch marker. It looks real enough to eat. It's got chives and cheddar and bacon and sour cream and a little powdered butter on top. And it is the cutest thing ever. It's the most expensive stitch marker I've ever purchased, but it was worth every penny. This is made by the Gnome Knitter, Nome. She lives in Nome, Alaska.
Oh, now I get it.
So she is the Gnome Knitter on Instagram, and I believe her website is thegnomeknitter.com. She does all kinds of treats, lots of cookies, whoopie pies. She does for Easter, she does the little peeps, all kinds of really, really awesome stuff. And I just, as someone who like loves, if my life is about anything besides yarn, it's about potatoes and ice cream. So I love potatoes, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to have it. It is the stitch marker that I use most often, and it has the lobster clasps, so I can use it both in knitting and crochet. So it's nice and versatile, but this is totally my favorite stitch marker ever.
So so I love that it's this themed thing, but are you also suggesting that like this specifically just makes your life better because it's this awesome potato? Or
oh my God, definitely.
Stitch markers in general, like you just couldn't live without them. Like that is your expert advice.
Yeah. So as far as from an expert perspective, I think stitch markers are indispensable. Mm-hmm. And I think I particularly like, especially for crocheting, I like the lobster clasp because you can get really specific about where you're putting it. So I've actually put stitch markers in the front loop of a stitch. And then like, if I was doing something in the back loops, like left it there if I needed to like mark the round. So it's just, I feel like you can get very specific about where you put them. Same thing for the locking stitch markers, but again, they're not as fun because they're just plastic. So I do have quite a few stitch markers with the lobster clasp because I find that one in particular is very versatile. Same thing goes for knitting. You can get really specific about where you put it so that you're not just throwing it on your needles, that you're actually able to very specifically pick out a particular stitch and mark it that way. So that's why I prefer the lobster clasp. And if I ever purchase handmade stitch markers like this, I make sure to get the lobster clasp because I think it's more versatile.
Interesting. I love that. And I have to agree with you. I love stitch markers, but I did not put them on my personal top 5 list. Only because, again, like in my mind, I was kind of internally ranking things like, what are my 5? Like, I cannot live without these. And stitch markers would probably be like number 6 on my list. They just missed my list.
Yeah.
Nice. And of course, stitch markers can be found anywhere, but I love that you gave a shout out to the Gnome Knitter. Like if somebody wants to go and find more. All right. Awesome. I'm going to check that out. I love little novelty things.
Yeah. Her stuff is awesome.
All right. So my second expert advice, my product for my expert advice, and I'm looking at all my things right now. I have to say this has made a huge difference in my life. A whip note card. So I am the founder and host at the American Crochet Association, and we've got a 12-course learning program there. And I love giving little cheat sheets and takeaways and handouts and things like that. And something that was very necessary in one of our past courses was introducing a whip note card. Now, this has made a huge difference in my life because Jess, you and I were just saying this morning. You're crocheting something. You're like, I totally know what I'm doing. And then you finish it, you put it down, you go to do something else, you pick it up, you go to write a pattern, you go to make another one. And you're like, man, that was so simple that I don't even remember what I did.
Totally just happened to me, for real.
It just happened to me too. I was just telling Jess. So this whip note card, had we have used this, Jess, as I was making my stocking, as you were making your shawl, that wouldn't have happened. So what I love about a whip note card is that, you know, so many of us keep notebooks, so many of us print patterns, like we have that. This is an addition to that. As you're making whatever it is that you're making, whether or not you're going to make it in one sitting, some of my whips are like months old, years old. Some of them I make in one sitting. But what I love about this is that it gives you the pattern name, pattern location. Did I get it from a book? Is it on Ravelry? Did I print it? Is it with the, you know, where is the pattern so that I can at a glance go reference it? Yarn brand use, yarn colors use. You may think you're going to remember, but when that label's gone, or when you're looking at a project and you're like, I don't remember if this is with love or like, I don't remember the color. What hook size did you use? I can't tell you how many times I'm like, nope, I'm going to change my hook size from what the yarn recommends or the pattern recommends. And then I go and pick up another hook to finish it. I can't tell you how many times I did that. What pattern size you're going to follow. You may think you're going to remember, but I guarantee you, especially if there's small variations, you may not. What date did you start? And then any kind of notes. I put this with every single whip that I have. And if you also keep a notebook, which I do, you know, I write patterns, but then I also, you know, just make notes on things. What I do is when I've finished my whip, okay, when it's done, when it's complete, if I'm making any kind of notes on it, I attach this to my notebook where that pattern is referenced, if I write a pattern or whatnot. This is also very handy if you use Ravelry and update your projects there, which is, that's a whole other ball of wax. But, you know, if you're updating your projects there, it really helps your crochet resume and so on and so forth. But it also attaches in a virtual sense any kinds of notes, any kind of additional details you have on a finished project in a virtual sense so that you don't lose it. So this has been monumental for me in my crochet life because it answers questions automatically that you think are so simple that save you a lot of time. It saves you a lot of energy. So this definitely, I say, if you're not already using whip note cards, it's going to make a huge difference in your crochet life or your knitting life or your whatever kind of yarn life that you have. But I'm a crocheter, so I always say things like that.
I can see that being so valuable for people because I can't tell you how many times I have forgotten which hook I used or what color I used or any, like it happens so often. And especially when you have, you know, a bunch of projects going on, it's very easy to either get them muddled together or if you have one that you put down for a few months or year, confession, I have a few things that I haven't touched in years.
Yes.
So like, you know, how are you supposed to remember? And Ravelry might be good for some things, but sometimes you just don't want, you're out and you're downstairs and you're using, like, you just don't want to have to go look it up on the computer. You just want to have it attached to the whip itself, which I think is cool.
But that's the huge difference about having an actual note card is that I love that I can, you know, save things digitally. I love that I can use Ravelry after the fact. But while you're sitting there crocheting, while you're sitting there making things and you just need some quick notes, like if you keep your whips in bags or baskets or wherever you keep them individually, it's great to keep that note card with that project, especially if it's not finished yet. Because you know, I don't want to lose my happy crochet hooks to be lost in every single bag of every single whip that I've got. So if I just write down what hook size I'm using, just for example, then it compartmentalizes all of these projects so I can very easily go back and just pick them up again. So yep, that is my second product in a nutshell.
Awesome.
All right, lady, what's number 3 on your list?
My turn. Next, I have some yarn, and I like buying from indie dyers. I don't do it as often as I would like for financial reasons. I would go broke. But I saw this skein from Lolo Did It, and I had to have it.
What?
So this is called, it is called Honeydukes.
Oh no.
Yeah, it is. It is called Honeydukes. It is on her everyday sock base, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. I bought this and another skein that I don't have with me right now. But I bought this after I knit my first pair of socks because the floodgates have opened and I can now knit socks. So sock yarn is finding me. Finding me. This colorway is amazing. I love it so much. It's bright, it's bold, it's Honeydukes. It's so me. So this is, I haven't gotten to do anything with it yet, obviously. But I'm really excited to work with this. It hangs on my yarn wall, and every time I look over there with longing, I'm like, I'm going to use you one day.
Are you going to use it for socks? Did you buy it specifically for socks?
I think I'm going to make socks with it. I haven't decided whether they're going to be knit or crocheted yet, because I have crocheted socks, and one of my other favorite things. I will talk more about that. But I definitely think I'm going to do socks. Just not sure. Haven't picked out a pattern. Haven't decided knit or crochet yet. I don't know. So if anybody has any ideas or recommendations or thoughts, I would welcome them. And you can find her at lolodidit.com. LOLODIDIT.com. And she's on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff.
I love it. Well,
one of my favorites.
That was a perfect segue, because my next in line is a yarn as well. And I'm going to parallel exactly what you said, because what you said spoke to me in so many ways. And I'm choosing yarn, but for slightly different reasons. And this is kind of what I heard from you too. So what I heard from you was, and this is my expert advice, is to find a yarn that you get it and that it gets you. Yes. That you figured it out. Now, I love playing with yarns. I have all kinds of yarns. I have all weights of yarns. I love them. But from what I heard from you is that is that like a sock weight? What kind?
Yep. Yeah.
I don't dabble in those weights. I dabble in the 4s and I stay there. But with that said, I think that what we could both say and what we could both agree on is to find a yarn weight that you understand. Like I was just saying, you understand, you know what it's capable of, you know what it can do. Like it very much inspires you to make things that you love making, that you enjoy making. And I know that you've got a new love of socks, crochet or knit socks.
Yeah, both.
Yes. And the same thing has happened for me for Weight for Yarn, which has always been like my home base. I love Weight for Yarn, but very specifically Red Heart Soft. Like I have had a long-term relationship with Red Heart Soft, and it is always my go-to.
Look at her cuddling it.
We do cuddle. We do. It's luscious and amazing. It just understands me, especially when I'm upset. Shh. And what I love about this yarn is that there's colors that inspire me. There's a huge palette. I can make things that are very much the things that I enjoy making. You just talked about socks. I know that you love amigurumi as well. And I love making things that I can wear that are quick. So I love making hats and cowls and shawls and scarves and things like that. And so that's why I love this yarn. And that's my expert advice to everybody watching, is to find a yarn that you understand, that understands you, that can do what you want it to do, but that also fits the realm of your comfort in terms of what kinds of things inspire you and what kinds of things you enjoy making. And it can be really powerful. It can make all the difference when you get a yarn and it gets you and it just performs. It's like if you're a chef and you find salt for the first time. It's like, what? Where has this been my whole life?
That's great. I love
find a yarn that just understands you. And then love it with all your heart.
All your red heart.
All your red heart. All right, Jess, what's number 4 for you, lady?
Well, I think I'm going to continue in that vein because I have another skein of yarn here that has been on my wall for quite some time, because I still quite haven't figured out exactly what I want to do with it, because it's just, it makes me so happy. So this is a skein of Madeline Tosh DK twist. I don't remember the exact colorway. I have another Madeline Tosh tag here, but this isn't it. This is a different one. But anyway, my expert advice, because I want to segue off of what you were saying, to find a yarn that you get and it gets you and all that, like to really just find something that feels like home. And for me, I tend to focus more on color and less on the yarn itself. Now, there are like a handful of yarns that I really love because of what they're made up of and because how easy they are to work with and, you know, maybe their weight or something like that. But I tend to gravitate towards, as you can see, bright colors. I really love fun yarns that make me, like, I look at them and I get excited. And this is one of the things that really drives me to design. Because I look at this, and honestly, there are not a lot of skeins in my stash, except for, with the exception of socks, because I am not at designing. I'm not at that level yet. Nowhere near that level. I just learned how to make them, let alone design them. But I look at a lot of skeins in my stash and I just get inspired to create. And a lot of times I don't even bother looking for things on Ravelry. I only have one skein of this. So I know that I'm not going to make a big project with it. So it kind of calls me to be a little more creative, to come up with something on my own and to just kind of sit down with this skein and see what it turns into. And I think that's really exciting for me, because I like to pick out stuff that sparks that idea, that thought, that eventually turns into a design, even after it sits on your wall for like 2 or 3 years.
I love that so much. And I heard that same kind of thing that you were saying about the hooks and about the stitch marker. And I think that there's a lot of power in that, and that as, you know, if this is our career, you know, yarn life is our career, but whether or not it's your career, it's very important to find and use tools and resources and materials that inspire you. I mean, this is a hobby. This is something, it's a necessity because it brings us happiness. But I mean, you can, you know, you should be able to use things that bring you joy and bring you happiness and make you want to, oh, I want to pick up my hook or my needles or this yarn, like that just excites you to make things with it. And there's a lot of power to that in using things that excite you, instead of just being like, here's my hook and here's my, you know, if you're ever doing that about anything in your life, you should rethink what the materials that you're using. Yeah, you might need a baked potato stitch marker. It can make all the difference.
It can, and it does. I urge everyone to find whatever their baked potato stitch marker is, whatever that means for you, and get one.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, is it my turn? My fourth thing, my fourth product, my expert advice on my product. All right, a lot of you guys may be like, but this is such a give me. Oh, hold on just a second. I lost my notes. I make notes for everything and I just lost mine. Hold on. Okay, we're back. Best product. Okay. I crochet. I do lots of things in crochet. One of the things that I do is write patterns, and I also follow patterns. And there are a lot of things that I make that are sized. Whether or not you make things that are sized, you've got to understand that size matters, gauge matters, stitch counts matter. All of those things matter, especially if you want to expand your yarn life, the kinds of things that you create. So I cannot keep enough of these. This is just a tape measure, okay? It's just a fabric tape measure. I probably have 25. I'm not kidding. I have a few downstairs. Wherever I work, I have to have one. And it doesn't matter if you're making something that needs to be sized or not. I think that it is a very important tool to have to understand your tension, to understand whatever yarn that you're working with, if you're on mark with the thing that you're following, the thing that you're making. Because if you're just millimeters off, if you're making a large project, that could make a huge difference. And so I think that it's very important. My expert advice is to measure as you go, to think in terms of gauge. whether or not it really ultimately matters. You know, you could be making something that can be off by a few inches, give or take. But I think that it's important to keep track of it, because whenever you go to make something that is sized, I don't want you to doubt yourself because you haven't been keeping track before, or feel that, oh, I just can't make things like that because they never turn out right. Size never turns out right. Gauge never turns out right. If you're paying close attention and you're measuring as you go, and you're measuring different work based on the project, based on the size hook, based on the yarn that you're using, then you're just going to be so much more informed as a knitter, as a crocheter, as somebody who uses yarn. So it is a small thing. It is very simplistic, but it's very much a mindset. So get in the mindset, get in the measuring mindset.
Yeah, I think it's a habit thing too. You know, if you do it all the time, if you do it consistently, even if it's not as important, you know, I think when it is important, you'll be well equipped because you've practiced and it happens automatically.
Yes, absolutely. So that is my expert tip, is that even if you're rolling your eyes at me, internet universe, like ain't nobody got time for that. Just, you know, put it in your mind next time you're knitting or crocheting or working with yarn, you're making with gauge swatches or whatever, just being a little more in tuned with size in that aspect, in that respect. I think that it can help you to make more informed decisions later on down the road when you're making something where size does matter. So
awesome.
Expert tip. All right, lady, what is your fifth? Are we to five now?
Fifth. We are. 1, 2, 3, 4,
5. What is number 5 for you?
My last, my next one.
Non-conformer.
I totally cheated. I have some extras. But this is a book that I have found really, really interesting and indispensable in my crochet sock journey. Mm-hmm. It is the Crochet Sock Collection by Vicki Brown. It is filled with, there are, I believe, 5 or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sock patterns in here, all crocheted. They're all gorgeous. I'm trying to find the page where they're all pictured. I thought, okay, so here's the whole story. I wanted to knit socks, and I tried to knit socks and I failed. And then I was like, well, I can crochet socks. So I tried to crochet socks and then I failed. I really love Vicki's book because it has a whole big section in the beginning that just talks about like making crocheted socks, like what it looks like, because a lot of things are a little different. Like you have to be very careful about the way you do certain things. You have to be specific. You know, you want to make sure you get the sizing right. So how to measure your foot. There's a lot of different tips and ideas, blocking, choosing yarns, swatching, all of that good stuff, like all of that stuff that goes into making a garment that has to be very specific. She does a really good job of going through, you know, all the different techniques and things that you have to use. And I made this pair of socks, and they came out awesome. And I bought, she has, I don't know if she still has them up, but in her Etsy shop, she has a kit where you can get the book and a skein of sock yarn, a skein of her sock yarn. I got this gorgeous, gorgeous colorway called Truffula Trees.
Oh my gosh.
And I should have pulled the socks out. But I made this particular sock and they came out awesome. So I like resources like this. I like that it's small. I like that the pictures are gorgeous. I like that you can very easily digest this. You don't have to go out. I can sit down with my book, a skein of yarn, and a hook and be good. I don't have to look things up on YouTube. I don't have to like go outside. As long as you have a basic knowledge of crochet stitches and you read through the beginning section of this book, you're going to be able to make a pair of socks. And I think that's cool. I like resources that are all inclusive, that you can sit down with and you don't need extras. You don't need to look things up. You've got this and you're good to go. So I'm really excited to explore. I think I have a few more skeins of sock yarn in my stash. So I think I'm going to try a few of the other ones because I think it's also really great, a really great way to try new stitches and new techniques, because it gives you a chance to try something new on a smaller project, on something that isn't going to take you a year to finish, and you get to try something new without, if you mess up, it's no big deal. It's just a small sock. So I found this book really awesome and very helpful. And Vicki Brown has an Etsy shop. I don't remember the exact URL of it, but I will share that with everyone in the show notes, because her stuff is awesome, for sure.
Yeah, Vicki Brown, shout out. She's awesome person, awesome designer, and that brings me. You said a lot of things that are a perfect segue into my next.
We're really gelling today, aren't we?
We are so, yeah, we are like the same person. We really are. We really are. What I also have a book next, and the reason this is one of my expert tips. It's in general, but then this book specifically. So I collect technique books, crochet technique books. And this is one of them. Yes, there are a lot of patterns in it. This is Connect the Shapes, Crochet Motifs by Edie Ekman. Huge shout out to Edie Ekman. She is one of my crochet idols because she's just amazing. And I bow to her. I bow to you, Edie Ekman. What I love about this is that there's a lot of technique in this. There's a lot of skill building. There's a lot of technique. There's a lot of how to do things, different varieties to do things. And I think, just like what you were saying with the socks, it's very important to understand technique, I think. If you really want to master things, if you really want to be an expert, if you really want to understand fundamentally different aspects of your yarn life, whether that be knit or crochet or whatnot, I think that starting at the basics and understanding different techniques that will help you to master things is very crucial. For me, I'm currently reading this book, even though I've read it so many times. I'm currently reading this book because I'm putting together a course more about seams and joins at the American Crochet Association, and so this book just kind of perfectly paired with it, and it's very supplemental in that regard. But my expert advice is not only to pick up this book if you're interested in learning more about seams and joins, but to think about technique books in general, no matter what your yarn interest is. So if you're interested in dyeing or spinning or knitting or crochet, there's different techniques no matter what it is that you want to learn outside of patterns. I think patterns are brilliant because they help you to make a thing. But for example, if you want to crochet Afghans, and motifs is one of them, and you've got to seam them all together some way, if you don't understand how to do that, you may never make an Afghan like that, which is kind of a shame. So if you love Afghans and that's where you live and that's what you want to do, if you love socks and that's where you live and that's what you want to do, it's important to understand different fundamental techniques so that you can understand the construction. You can understand different methods of joining and changing and sizing and all of those things that will help you to understand those categories to a level that will help you feel like, okay, I've successfully completed this thing.
Yeah, I think that's important because I think it empowers the crocheter to make decisions on their own as well. So for example, when I first learned about the invisible decrease, it was like life-changing because I make a lot of amigurumi, and the last thing you want is these bumps all over your amigurumi because you don't know how to do an invisible decrease. And there are a lot of patterns that might not specifically state invisible decrease. However, as someone who has that in their crochet toolbox, you can very easily substitute one and know that your project is going to come out better for it. And I think that's what really excites me about just crochet education in general.
Yes.
But I think books are a really great way to do that, especially ones like I have the same exact book, especially ones like that, because they go much further than just, hey, here's some motifs, or hey, here's a few techniques. It's very, very in depth.
Yes.
In a way that's kind of hard to get any other way.
Absolutely. The more you know, the more you can do. So technique books, that's my number 5. And you said you nonconformist. That's why I was calling you that. You actually have one more expert. You've got some more expert advice. You couldn't just stop at 5. What's your last thing, lady?
My last thing. Okay, so I'm going to be a total nonconformist. I have 2. I have 2. So thing number 1 is just it's a tote bag, and it.
Oh my gosh!
I did. This is I designed this.
We are the same person.
We are the same. So my Living the Yarn Life unicorn tote bag. And, you know, this specific tote bag is special because it has a unicorn on it. So it's already, you know, extra useful. But just tote bags in general. So what I do, I actually have a giant collection of tote bags, just like I have a giant collection of whips, and each whip gets its own tote bag. And that means that I can very easily grab a tote bag and know that it has everything to do the project inside, usually minus the hook. But I keep, there's actually, if you go on the bottom of a bunch of my tote bags, you get like, you find like old yarn needles and stuff. But you know, there's just, everything's in there. I know I have the yarn I need. I know I have, you know, the project itself. If it fits in a tote bag, I put it in a tote bag, and each project gets its own tote bag so that I can very easily travel with my projects, and it makes it much easier to be like, hey, we're going to the park, or hey, I want to go sit out in the backyard, and just grab a bag and go. So I find tote bags indispensable in my yarn life. And obviously you do too.
I do.
Because you've got your hashtag yarn life.
I do.
My last, and this is actually my last one.
Okay.
And this is not necessarily expert advice, as just you should show off your personality and who you are. And I think the tote bags do that as well. But I also have this. I don't know if you can see it. I have this maker tee.
Oh, I did not even see that.
And this it's from the Yarn Mamas. They have a site, I think it's yarnmamas.com. And also they have an Instagram. They have tons of just yarn people swag. So I think it's really cool to show off your personality. I like to wear it out and see what comments I get and see what people come up to me and be like, hey, what does that mean? What are you talking about? What do you make? So I think it's really fun and just another way to show off your personality, like the hooks and the tote bags, and, you know, picking out yarn and making sure that your skills are up to date, and you learn as much as you want to, and then kind of sharing with your swag. And I think that's really, really cool because it helps to spread. It helps to spread, you know, what we're doing and what we enjoy. And you never know who might come across, you know, your tote and be like, hey, what does that mean? And then turn out to want to learn. So I think that's always fun. I think spreading the message and, you know, spreading what we love to do as far and wide as we possibly can is really cool.
That's awesome, Jess. I don't think I could have said that any better. I don't think I could. Well, I think that's it for our episode today. Those are our 10, 11, 12, because Jess had some fun extras for us, some fun bonuses. Based on our expert advice, those are 10 best products for not only our yarn life, but hopefully they make a difference in your yarn life too. So let's see what's next. Jess and I do plan out things behind the scenes, but we'd still love your feedback. So please join us in our Facebook group. We'll have a link in the show notes at the end to vote for our future feature episodes. And that's guests, that's topics, things like that. So let us know what you think. We're going to have a poll available for votes. So make sure that you put your options in, but then also if you have something that's not on our poll, let us know. We'd love to hear what you guys think. So make sure you join our group for that. So in closing today, remember guys, today's episode is sponsored by you. So please click on over and check out our Yarn Life swag shop to pick up a token tee or a tote or a mug today. Every single purchase you guys make there is only going to help us create more great content, more great episodes, bring on more amazing guests. So you can find that shop link in the show notes section today on Teespring. And thank you for joining this episode in the Yarn Life Show for your daily dose of fiber. So with that, we bid you happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining the Yarn Life Show. And we will see you next Friday at the same time. Peace, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.